Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, November 14th. I call this meeting to order. I declare a quorum is present and the media has been notified. We'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Reverend Spann to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would also like to recognize any veterans that we have attending tonight or on the board. If you served in the United States military, if you would stand up for just a moment and be recognized. Thank you very much for your service. We'll now move on to the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on October 24th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion by Reverend Spann, a second by Mr. McQuillan to approve the regular minutes for the meeting on October 24th, 2017. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. We'll now move on to legacy builders and some very special recognitions.
Good evening, Chairwoman Wofford, Superintendent Ingram, members of the board, and all of you gathered here tonight. It's my pleasure to introduce our first legacy builder, and that is Principal Chris Swetke from Hal Hall Ames. Principal Swetke was selected as the 2017 South Carolina Education Association Outstanding Elementary School Principal of the Year. This association advances visual arts education to fulfill human potential and promote global understanding. The award committee selected Principal Swetke because of his contributions to art education in his school. Congratulations, Principal Swetke. Stay with us, Principal Swetke. All right, for our second recognition, I'm going to ask Principal Swetke to come up here so that he can tell you about the award that Hal Hall Ames received as being the Art Schools Network Exemplary School.
Good evening, Chair Wofford, Superintendent Ingram, members of the board. First and foremost, thank you for the recognition. I wish my wife were here tonight. I know she's going to watch the video to make sure I recognize her. She's at home widening all the door frames to make sure my ginormous head fits through after receiving this much recognition in one night. It will not be easy, but I'm sure they'll be like, those old Western doors that I have to kick through to get through. So I appreciate all of the recognition for me and this award. More importantly, I want to recognize our school and our board and our district support through an achievement our school obtained through the Art Schools Network. The Art Schools Network is just that. It's a network of art schools that serve kindergarten through seniors in college in the fine arts world. And we embarked on a process of going through their evaluation about 2 years ago to see how our program stacked up with not only elementary schools of the arts, but middle and high and college schools of the arts throughout the country. That was done at the urging of the College of Charleston and Dean Valerie Morris, who thought we'd be a good fit. And so after going through the rubric, We were very privileged. We were very humbled to be recognized with this distinction. I'm going to date myself a little bit. And those of you who are parents in the room know I gave the same comment at the award ceremony, but there's an old ad in the 80s, and I'm a child of the 80s, from Vidal Sassoon. We don't look good if you don't look good. And the only reason we look good is because there are people who serve Howe Hall Ames, whether it's through board support, whether it's through taxpayer support, through allocations and revenue, parental support, student support, parent support, and teacher support, who make this school not just a school, but a school family, and a culture that uses the arts to drive everything we do. I appreciate your support of Howe Hall Ames and the continued support of our program for the last 60 years. I appreciate your support of Merrington Middle School of the Arts and Berkeley Center for the Arts, and arts through engaging creative minds, and everywhere else it serves the needs of students in Berkeley County School District. So with that being said, I'm going to challenge Ms. Orvin's picture-taking abilities, and I'm going to invite some of our teachers, our parents, our students, our PTA chairman, Ms. Christina Good, our SIC chair, Ms. Tammy Sakalis, to all come up and join me for this picture. I also know we have some other members sitting on the board or sitting in cabinet or out in the audience who are also parents of Ames. So if you'd come up and join us, we'd appreciate you to join us as well, because it is a team award. All right, students in front, they're going to do this. Where are my ambassadors? Really? Right there.
And for our final recognition tonight is for our First Steps Parents as Teachers program, and Dr. Denise Ling is going to join us to introduce this award.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Dr. Ingram, school board members, and ladies and gentlemen of the audience. I'm thrilled to be able to share this good news. Our Parents as Teachers program has been named a Blue Ribbon Model Affiliate. This year, the Berkeley County First Steps Parents as Teachers completed the Parents as Teachers Quality Endorsement and Improvement process and earned the highest designation they could be given, Blue Ribbon Affiliate. Being named a Blue Ribbon Affiliate affirms that the Berkeley County First Steps Parents as Teachers program is among the highest quality of Parents as Teachers programs in the home visitation and parent education field, implementing the evidence-based Parents as Teachers model with fidelity and high quality. The Parents as Teachers program is funded by a grant from our Berkeley County First Steps office. We currently have 5 parent educators in the field servicing Berkeley County families and children. Parent educators work with families who have children's ages birth to 5, getting them ready to come to school. They do this through home visits, which allows them to service the whole child, but also the parents and the family right along. I'd like to introduce this very special group of people. Abby Mills is our program supervisor. If you would please come on up. Renee Gant, parent educator servicing Berkeley Elementary School, Bonner Elementary School, and Whitesville Elementary School. Blondell Wright, parent educator servicing Kane Hoy, Philip Simmons Elementary, and Daniel Island. Jessica Mack, parent educator servicing Cross Elementary, Kane Bay Elementary, and the Nexton and Sangaree area. Paula Duvall, parent educator servicing St. Stephen's Elementary and J.K. Gerdine. And Nadine Todd, parent educator servicing the Goose Creek and Hanahan areas. Please join me in recognizing their great achievement tonight.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Ingram, and school board members, and ladies and gentlemen. Just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you guys for recognizing us, for all of the hard work that this team has done to get to this point. I believe in the beginning of the school year, Mr. Jackson said we have about 34,000 students in the district. And as a school district, we expect our children to graduate high school, career, or college ready. And so as parent educators, we understand that those fundamental foundations start at birth. And so we have been able to form so many collaborative relationships with so many of the different programs within our school district, elementary programs, special services, student services, of course, our wonderful Office of Federal Programs, Head Start, so that we can collaborate all these different services to get families' needs met before their children are even students here at the school district. And I don't know if a lot of you remember Dr. Judy Hurt. She is now Dr. Yankus. I think many years ago, I think it was 16 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, I think she envisioned this program as a wonderful asset to the district, but I don't think she probably imagined it to be the way it is today. And we've had a wonderful journey. We've had some amazing leaders in our program throughout the 16 years, from, of course, Dr. Hurt, to Dr. Gelman, to Dr. O'Gorman, even though he only had us for a couple of months, Dr. Whitley, and now Dr. Ling. And Dr. Ling's office has really put us on the map. Her entire office has made it a mission to make sure that administrators and parents across the district understand what we do and why we do it. So thank you so much for recognizing the critical importance of early childhood, and we are blessed to be a part of this district and so many of the family. And I also, she didn't get in our picture, and I wish she did. Stephanie Wallace, Dr. O'Gorman, and Dr. Ling appointed her to the First Step board. And our two First Step people, Stephanie Cook, who is our coordinator, and Adrian Frazier, who's the director of First Steps, we're not able to be here because one's in Columbia and son's had an accident. But Stephanie is on our governance board, which has brought a lot of support to Berkeley County First Step. So we thank you so much for the recognition tonight. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our legacy builders for the evening, but congratulations one more time to Principal Sweatke, Hal Hall Ames, and our First Steps parents as teachers.
Thank you so much for attending tonight. Congratulations, Principal Sweatke and Hal Hall Ames. Also to our parent educators, thank you so much. If you came tonight just to enjoy a special recognition, now would be a great time for you to get to go do something else more fun than a school board meeting. So thank you for coming. Feel free to stay if you'd like, but thank you for all that you do for Berkeley County. There are no citizen comments tonight, so we'll move on to agenda item 4A, Operations and Administration, the Safety and Security Update.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Ingram, members of the board. Normally at this time, to introduce the Safety and Security Update, I would introduce Mr. Tim Knight. Mr. Knight is not with us tonight. He's come down with a bout of strep throat, so he is out. So I do have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Brian Fenton, our new Safety and Security Officer. As you see, Mr. Fenton, he is a familiar face, although he's new to us. We were able to hire him from Berkeley County Sheriff's Office, where he supervised our SRO unit. So very familiar with the district, as well as law enforcement. So at this time, Mr. Brian Fenton.
We've got a slideshow to present. Good evening, Madam Chair Wofford, Dr. Ingram, and members of the board. As you know, the safety of our students and employees is our #1 priority. And tonight, I would like to bring to your attention our fall safety update for the 2017-2018 school year. Over the summer, we conducted our 4th annual School Resource Officer Summer Training at Berkeley High School. During the training, our SROs received juvenile law updates from the USC Children's Law Center, drug trend updates from the Kennedy Center and Goose Creek Police Department, CPR training and recertification from a few of our school nurses, mass casualty training from Berkeley County EMS, active shooter and defensive tactics training from the Goose Creek Police Department SWAT team, and some hands-on training in de-escalation techniques. Because our SROs are from 6 different law enforcement agencies within the county that all have their own sets of procedures and guidelines, it's so important that we have this training so that we're all on the same page and understand how to handle day-to-day issues that may arise, and also what's expected for the protection of our schools. As you all know, we conduct at least 2 large-scale crisis simulations every school year. These exercises give us the opportunity to practice the emergency procedures that we have in place, and also to critique and evaluate those procedures to ensure the effective and efficient real-life emergency situations. We are scheduled to conduct a large-scale active shooter exercise at Cross Elementary School this Thursday, and conduct a large-scale intruder and abduction exercise at Goose Creek Primary School in the spring. Some upcoming training. If you all recall, in the spring of 2016, during the district's instructional fair, we brought in the FBI under the National Operation Safe School Initiative to train our teachers in recognizing the sounds of different types of gunfire within the school. The training proved to be the highest rated training that day among all the attendees. In the spring of 2018, we're planning on conducting the same training for our teachers at the 2018 Berkeley County Conference, utilizing law enforcement officers from several of our county's agencies. We are also going to continue with our injury prevention and self-defense training from H2H Solutions for all of our administrators. We are continuing with online safe school training program and have added mandated reporting and de-escalation techniques for our employees. We plan to have mass casualty and bleeding control training for our administrators, nurses, school resource officers in the next coming months. These are just a few examples of how the district is working hard to give our administrators, staff, and teachers, who all work very hard, different tools that they can use to successfully in dealing with different types of emergency situations, and all while remaining safe. Some of the security initiatives that we're trying to enact, looking ahead in the 2017-2018 school year, we'll be staying busy with a few safety and security initiatives. We are working with our Office of Technology to add a safety and security icon to the Berkeley County School District phone app. This will be a medium in which we can receive anonymous reports from the public to coincide with and expand with our district-wide slogan of, if you see something, it's okay to say something, regarding the successful district-wide anonymous reporting tip line. We have been working with our Office of Technology and local law enforcement partners in constructing procedures for reporting suspected child exploitation images and other computer files that may be criminal in nature that are discovered on our district computers and Chromebooks. That's important to ensure that each incident is handled properly and uniformly, and the focus remains on the safety and well-being of our students. As you know, we successfully piloted the clear bag, no bag procedures at this football season at Goose Creek High School. Due to the program's success and our fans' buy-in, we're looking to expand these procedures district-wide. These procedures are similar to those that you may have seen in professional or college sporting events. We are currently collaborating with our county's private schools and area colleges and assisting them with improving their safety and security procedures in joint efforts to aid each other should there be a critical incident at one of our schools. We have also been working with the Office of Technology and facilities offices to improve physical security measures at our schools. We've installed new fencing and gates at schools such as College Park Middle School and Westview Middle School in an effort to restrict unwanted access and better secure our campuses. There's some pictures of some of the gates and fencing that we've installed on that slide. A couple of other things that aren't not on that slide. We've rolled out our 2017-2018 response to crisis cards that are basically a condensed version of our district's emergency planning and management guide. Copies of these guides were provided to all of our administrators and teachers. Our teachers will keep these guides in their classroom where they can have quick access during times of emergencies. These handheld cards contain our emergency procedures and important phone numbers. Another bonus to these cards being readily available in our classrooms is that substitute teachers and other staff members no longer have to worry about tracking down our emergency procedures should a critical incident occur. We are also working with our technology office and local law enforcement partners in an effort to grant them access to our campuses via the access control technology. This will assist in increasing law enforcement's response to incidents that may occur during and after school hours. It'll also help in emergency responses during critical incidents. And finally, tonight we have a short video to highlight this year's SRO summer training. The extended version of the video will be added to our safety and security webpage at the district's website.
Well, the name in itself, School Resource Officer. We're a resource. We are information. We are part of the community.
All right, give us just a second. Diane, do you know why it's not? No, it was a Google Share Drive.
Google Share Drive?
It's on this too. I tried to earlier. It doesn't recognize this. Yeah.
It's not on there. We're going to post it on our webpage. It's not working tonight. If anybody's got any comments or questions or concerns, I'll be happy to answer. All right. Thank you. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you.
next, we'll move on to Agenda Item 5A, Academic Services, the Rural School Initiative Reading Levels. Dr. O'Gorman.
I think I got it. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Ingram, ladies and gentlemen. My pleasure to bring you some information specific to our Rural School Initiative and the reading gains of our students from the 16-17 school year. So this is performance specific to last year. I just want to point out that reading levels are just the icing on the cake in terms of the entire Rural School Initiative. We've got community engagement, career and technology activities. There's so many things going on beyond the reading levels, and I can bring more information back to you about them. The Parents as Teachers program are heavily involved in the Rural School Initiative. Technology, working with Google and the Rolling Studies Halls was sort of a precursor to the rural schools. There's more information coming out this week about the Rural School Initiative. So a lot of good things going on. So this is just specific to reading levels. So just to sort of recap some of the things that General Fund did last year was fund 6 reading interventionists at Cross Elementary, Cross High, JK, St. Stephen Elementary and Middle, and Timberland High School. This was our first year using Read 180 and System 44 on a large scale. St. Stephen's Middle had actually piloted that the year before, and College Park Elementary had also used Read 180. And so the reading inventory you see below that is a screening instrument that's related to Read 180, and the phonics inventory is related to Systems 44. Just so you know, Systems 44 is sort of the prerequisite of Read 180. You've got to have the System 44 skills before you get the Read 180. You got some books coming around now. I see Ms. Blackwood is going to talk about those in a little bit. You're not supposed to look at them until we get to that.
Sorry, focus.
So my teaching skills would have stopped that. So what we did when we rolled out the Read 180 platform, we tried to address the students most in need. So in Read 180 last year, where you had 439 students that were enrolled in the program in August and May. So this is matched student data that I'm about to show you. 171 in Systems 44 for a total of 610. Now that does include College Park Elementary students. We couldn't extract them out. Obviously they're a high poverty school as well. So about 3/4 of the students that I'm going to show you are specific to the rural schools, but this is the entire Read 180 platform. I try to make this real simple. So the blue bar in August shows that 38% of those, of the 439 students in Read 180, 38% were below basic, below grade average. In May, those same students took that same test again, and 71% were on grade level. That is a 33% gain. That is huge. That is huge. I can't tell you enough about how exciting this is. And it's not, I want to clarify, this isn't just about ELA test scores. These are actually Lexile levels. This is readability. In fact, if you look at the book that you have in front of you, on the very back, you will see a Lexile level. There's a number at the very bottom. Ms. Blackwood is going to talk about those Lexile levels and what they mean. And again, those are scores that will be measured on SC Ready. They're also measured in the Read 180 program and the reading inventory, which is a universal screener that we now use. So the phonics inventory is similar. So phonics, this inventory is specific to pre-reading skills, identifying letters, their sounds, that kind of thing. So again, students in 3rd grade that aren't quite ready to read would, for example, be in Systems 44. So again, we had 24% below grade level of those 171 students, and 51% above or at grade level or above in May. And so that's a 27% gain for those really low level readers. So this was some exciting news in and of itself. We went back and looked at SC Ready specific to third graders at JK Cross and St. Stephen. They had an average Lexile score above the national average. So you've got schools with 98% poverty, and you've got them outperforming the national average in third grade. We saw greater gains for those students at the younger grade levels, which makes sense. We didn't see that kind of performance in the upper elementary and middle school grades. But this shows great promise that as the longer we have the system in place, the more we're going to be able to catch those students up with where they need to be. But overall, in all of those schools, we saw an improvement in their ELA scores on SC Ready. So from a reading perspective, this is above success. This is outstanding. We could not have predicted results this good last year. And I just want to give kudos to the teachers and the principals and the parents and the students that really engaged heavily into this program. You might remember we had a student that was recognized nationally last year. We brought him before the board, and we actually have the company come in to visit us this Friday, and Dr. Ingram and I will go with the CEO of the Read 180 Houghton Mifflin Company and go meet the student and tour the schools. I mean, that's how great the schools have done. So they've just done an awesome job. I just mentioned that. So building on this success, as we've looked at this and we've seen these great outcomes, we said, you know what, we could probably use this in some other spots. Special education, our IDEA, we got some money from the state maintenance of effort funds that were owed to us. The state had held back, and they gave us some money that had to be used on curriculum. And so we've rolled that out in special education classrooms in elementary, middle schools across the district. Other schools have started using Read 180 and System 44 using Title I or at-risk funds. And again, we're seeing that success continue in those schools. And so one of the, I won't say unexpected outcomes, Ms. Blackwood, if you want to come on up. Ms. Blackwood was here in the boardroom last year, and she heard us talking about this, and she's passionate about literacy. You're going to hear that in just a second. And she said, I really want to go observe one of these classes and see what's happening. And so in her role as teacher forum chair last year, one of her desires was to go find good reading practicing, good strategies, and then spread them across the district. So I'm going to kind of spoil this. She is now a Read 180 teacher at her school, but she's going to talk about that transition from last year.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Ingram, Madam Chair, and members of the board. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you my observations and my experiences with Read 180. And I will tell you before I get started, the books that you have are the books that my last group of children picked out for you, because when I told them I changed my shoes at school and they were asking why, and I told them that I got to come and visit with you this evening and that I was going to share with you all the success that they were making. And they said, well, can you take the books? And so these are the books they are right now reading. And so they are in Systems 44, which you'll notice up in the top. Now there's a whole nother set for Read 180. They have an entire different set of books. These are mostly nonfiction, the Read 180, and they do have fiction as well. The Read 180 has a very good balance of both. And the program that we're doing at Sedgefield Intermediate is Program A, which is for the lower level for our level of elementary children. So each level has each level in middle school, high school, there is a level for them. So just that you keep that in your mind as I speak. As an early childhood and elementary certified teacher, literacy from phonics to comprehension has always been a priority in my classrooms. Even after 24 years in the profession, I've looked for ways to improve instruction in my own practice and studied new research in order to bring those practices back to the children. Last year at the board meeting, just as Dr. Ingram said, when he spoke about the rural initiative, and I asked him at executive session, is there any way that we could, if the children are making that kind of significant gains in the rural schools, then how could we extend and duplicate that success in other schools? And so as District Teacher of the Year, he knew that I was sincere in the desire to spark that conversation that would communicate strategies for reading to our struggling readers across the district. So he did suggest that I go to JK and watch it in action. I had the blessing of seeing Miss Karen Neesmith and her wonderful students. She embodies everything that we would expect in an educator, but what I witnessed in her classroom was more than excellent rapport and respect and just fantastic quality learning. Every single child in her room was engaged. These were struggling readers, yet they were learning using on-task reading behaviors, whether it was independently in software or with teacher-led instruction. And I could not wait to have my conversation with Karen afterwards. So this year at Sedgefield Intermediate, we have implemented Read 180, and we have implemented 3 different classes in general education. Ms. Neesmith's comments have replicated in my experiences over the last couple of months. The children are engaged. Those children are building confidence. They are excited, and they're taking ownership of their learning, and they're setting goals for themselves beyond what I'm asking for them. As an educator, I have data from this program at my fingertips daily. My husband has to remind me that it's time to stop because I can't, it's amazing because I can take that data and I can help address, plan, and group the students to give them exactly what they need to fill in deficits or to move them towards their goals. They are using the reading strategies that we are discussing and learning in the program, and they're reading for meaning as well as reading with purpose. We're teaching the students at their learning level, but the software differentiates for every single child for what they need, and they tell me every day what they've succeeded and what points they've earned and that, so that they're showing me or telling me growth, and they're excited about it. And then in their independent reading, it's based on their Lexile or their reading level. A couple of weeks ago, one of the children in my small group, he said, "Miss Blackwood, I'm going to read this book now, and it has 16 pages. I've never read a 16-page book before." I asked this 4th grader how that made him feel. And he said, well, he could do it now, he just never realized he could. Ladies and gentlemen, that 4th grader, the book, Whoever Has Disaster, that's the book he's reading this week. And it has 24 pages, which he was very excited to tell me when,
Wonderful
there it is.
book.
And it has the word tsunami in it. And he was corrected somebody else when they said that one wrong. So he just never realized that he could. And it's not that we don't expect 3rd and 4th graders to read rigorous text. We do. But for this student, he wanted to, and that makes all the difference. Then he turned around and made a 90 on the book quiz on that 16-page book. So some students have remarked after they took the reading inventory, which was mentioned a moment ago, that they were excited because their Lexiles have gone up. Now they can finally go read some of the books. We have the chart. The books are on charts in the classroom. They can finally read some of those books that they've really wanted to read. And that's where the Lexile numbers come into play, because they know that they have a range of books that they can successfully read from. So if they see something that's stimulating them, they're going to keep pushing to try to get to that. The books are high interest, as you see. Not a single child has said that these books are baby books. And I've had former students come back wishing they were in the class so they could read these books as well. Yet another student stated that she now likes reading, and she knows that she needs to listen to her inside voice every time she reads, so she's going to actually understand what she's reading. These are the stories of success at Sedgefield Intermediate. Yes, we have positive data, and we have parents who have expressed gratitude because their children have been identified and are now receiving this intervention. But it's the confidence and it's the engagement of these children. Those are the marks that we see of success, that we count as successful. These children are becoming lifetime learners. They are becoming readers. And we know that that makes the difference and opens the doors for their future. Do y'all have any questions about these wonderful books? Okay. I will say that this evening. May I please take them back because the children would definitely miss them. They're only 5 each. So
I wanted to read them.
While you're passing those around, want to recognize Miss Fleming. Not only was she the pioneer for Read 180 for us and kind of beat some folks over the head and said, you got to come see this, you got to come see that. Isn't that right, Miss Fleming? And she did, didn't you? Also had that national award winner at her school. So thanks to you and your teachers and your staff for pulling us along and allowing us to replicate this in other places. And that's kind of why I wanted you to hear from Ms. Blackwood, was that we're seeing it work in our rural school initiative, but we're able to replicate it in other places, and that's huge. If y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to try and address them at this time.
Ms. Lee.
The data that you showed us earlier with the growth that we're seeing, do we have that broken out by grade so this way we can track that from year to year?
Yes and yes. Yes. It's really hard to do, but yes, we are able to do that. And I didn't mention this, but the screener, which is the reading inventory you see there in green, we actually use that K-9 now, so we have that for all students. So we have literacy. We have literacy lexile levels from the reading inventory and math from quantiles from the Math 180 program, which we're not using as much as the reading inventory. But yes, we have these by grade level for the entire district now so that we can do what you're saying. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you so much for your work on this. This is something that's really, really close to my heart. So I appreciate all the time and effort, and I am looking forward to it growing and every school having the opportunity to intervene with the kids who haven't quite made it yet. So that confidence is key. When my son was probably 3.5, 4 years old, he got moved into Miss Thomas's class, and Miss Thomas was a retired teacher from Berkeley County School District. And after Christmas, he said, "I'm going to be able to read tomorrow." I'm like, "Oh, that is great." And I'm like, "How are you going to be able to read tomorrow?" Because I'm going to Miss Thomas's class, and everybody in Miss Thomas's class can read. And he came home that next day with a book with a couple of words in it, and he could read. But that confidence sparked immediately. So seeing that confidence build is really exciting. Thank you so much. We're going to move now to financial services for the monthly general fund update. Also, I was not here last meeting. I apologize. I had to be out of town for work. But welcome, Ms. Smith, to Berkeley County School District. And as soon as you show up to work, we put you to work. So thank you for being here.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Ingram, and ladies and gentlemen of the board. This portion of the presentation this evening will include revenues and expenditures for all funds through October 31st, 2017. For the general fund budget, we have $52 million in total revenues received through October 31st, with the majority received from state funding. Total expenditures through October 31st in the general fund budget are $73.6 million, of which 77% of the expenditures are in salaries and benefits. The next slide will break down expenditures by the different functions. I would also like to mention that the year-to-date expenditures include purchase order encumbrances. For instruction, which includes teachers and teacher assistants, salaries and benefits make up 91% of the total $33.4 million in expenditures. 1.9 in purchase services, which includes Kelly services, travel, and technology purchases. 1.1 million was spent in supplies and materials for classroom supplies. $7,236 in capital outlay includes furnishings for Philip Simmons, and $35,000 in people services was spent on mental health counselors. For support services, which includes all school staff, the majority of expenditures are in salaries and benefits. $740,000 in purchase services includes Kelly services, custodians, and SROs. $187,000 in supplies and materials, and $205,000 in pupil services, which includes non-revenue sports, athletic travel, and sports medicine. A total of $25.6 million was spent in the support services and district-level staff function. Salaries and benefits make up the bulk of the expenditures at $12.6 million. We spent $8.7 million in purchase services, including utilities, software, maintenance, equipment, and legal and audit fees. The next line item is supplies and materials, which includes technology replacements that totals $3.4 million. The $745,000 in capital outlay includes new servers for the district. We also have pupil services, expenditures, and transfers. Total expenditures for the general fund budget are $73.6 million. Special revenue fund has received a total of $5 million through October 31st from state and federal sources. The total expenditures are through October 31st are $6.6 million. The majority of the expenditures are salary and benefits and purchase services. We also have expenditures of supplies and materials, other objects, which includes membership dues and fees and transfers. The EIA budget has received $8 million in state funding and has expenditures of $5.1 million through October 31st, with the majority of the spending in salaries, benefits, and purchase services. The capital projects budget revenue is $18 million, which includes $2.9 million of carryover revenue from the prior year and $15.1 million of the recent bond sale. Expenditures for this budget total $12.6 million for the ongoing capital projects throughout the district. The bond referendum budget is a multi-year budget. Total revenues are $81.7 million, and expenditures through October 31st are $59.1 million, which includes $58.9 million in capital outlay for the Berkeley Education Center, Foxbank Elementary, and Bowens Corner Elementary School projects. The child nutrition budget includes $4.1 million in total revenues year to date, with $3.6 million from federal sources. We have expended $1.9 million in salaries and benefits and $200,000 in purchase services, $2.4 million in food purchase services under supplies and material, $136,930 in kitchen equipment under capital outlay, and $29,300 in other objects, totaling the $4.7 million in expenditures through October 31st. All budgets that have been presented this evening are in good standing as of October 31st, 2017. Are there any questions?
I really like this format. It's very granular. I like it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions on expenditures? All right, we'll move on to agenda item B, which is FPB, the commercial doors and hardware. You have before you FPB 520-17-18 for commercial doors and door hardware to be awarded to Advanced Door, Cook & Boardman, O Enterprises, and Interline Brands doing business as Supply Works. The projected annual contract value is $100,000. Capital funds will be used for these purchases. This fixed price bid was conducted to replace an expiring 5-year term contract for door hardware. This term contract is necessary to provide the district with reliable suppliers for doors and door hardware to be purchased on an as-needed basis. Facility services staff will use this contract to purchase materials needed to complete general maintenance and repair work orders and capital improvement projects. Based on prior year use, the projected annual contract value is estimated to be $100,000. We are asking you to award FPB 520-17-18 for commercial doors and door hardware to Advanced Door, Cook & Boardman, O Enterprises, and Interline Brand doing business as Supply Works. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to award FPB number 520-17-18 for commercial doors and door hardware to Advanced Door, Cook & Boardman, O Enterprises, and Interline Brands doing business as Supply Works for a projected annual contract value of $100,000.
There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Mr. McQuillan. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Mr. Barrow.
Ms. Smith, I'm not sure you know the answer to this. You probably do. These 4 vendors, these are fixed prices for these 4 vendors?
Yes, sir.
So there's no specific amount for each vendor? In
That's
other words,
correct.
it depends on the availability,
The
of the
availability of
product
the items. Mm-hmm.
and our choice of which of these 4 vendors that we choose to do business with at the time.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the $100,000 has not been divided up in any way at this point. It depends upon availability of the product as needed.
That is correct. It has not
Okay.
been divided between each vendor.
That was my understanding. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item 6C.
Our next item is IFB 525-17-18 to provide and install baseball bleachers at Berkeley High School to be awarded to Sturdy Steel Company for a contract total of $60,630 to be paid out of capital funds. The bleachers for Berkeley High School's baseball field were originally bid as an alternate in the IFB 509-16-17 Berkeley High School football stadium bleacher replacement. These projects were bid together with the smaller project listed as an alternate. At the time, the alternate was declined. The baseball bleachers were approved as a fiscal year 17-18 capital improvement. A bid was conducted which ended up resulting in a savings of $6,370 when compared to the initial bid of $67,000 that was rejected in 16-17. We are asking you to award IFB 525-17-18 to Sturdy Steel Company to provide and install baseball bleachers at Berkeley High School.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I make the motion to award IFB number 525-17 through 18 to provide and install bleachers for the baseball field at Berkeley High School to Sturdy Steel Company for a contract price of $60,630.
Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. We'll now move on to Human Resources and the first reading of Policy JDE. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Levine.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board Chair Wofford, Dr. Ingram, members of the board, and members of the audience. We're bringing 2 policies to you tonight for revision. Policy JDE, Student Expulsions, is being brought to you through Administrative Services for first reading. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of Policy JDE, Student Expulsions, as listed under Agenda Item 7A.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair Lady, I make a motion to approve first reading of policy JDE, student expulsions for revision.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Barrow, a second by Mr. Wright. Are there any questions or discussion?
I have some discussion here, but Dr. Levine, was this language that's added to the expulsion policy, and I'll read it.
Yes, sir.
If a student has been assigned to the Berkeley Alternative School as an alternative to expulsion or through the appeal process, the student cannot attend any school-sponsored activities in the daytime or at night or at any other school or be on the school grounds of any other school within the district. Was that language meant to be all-inclusive for all of the students assigned to the Berkeley Alternative School?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Gelman just to make sure, but that is my understanding that we wanted to, from what was given to me, to restrict where the students who were sent to the alternative schools and students who were expelled ended up being able to go to the different activities at the school. So that's my understanding, that it is supposed to be all-inclusive, correct?
There are other ways in which students are assigned to the alternative school besides the expulsion process per se. So I would suggest that the language be modified, not to restrict it to students that are there as a result of an alternative to expulsion, because there are several ways that are not listed. For example, students may be assigned at the beginning of the school year. In placement, there are certain allocations from every middle and high school that those students aren't up for expulsion, and they're not on any type of strict probation necessarily. So I would suggest that we make an amendment to this at this time, or maybe pass this as first reading, and then make that modification to change to perhaps say any student that's assigned to the Berkeley Alternative School may not so and so.
Yes, sir.
So you're that way, you're not defining or limiting yourself to those individuals that are placed there under specific circumstances, but therefore would include all of the students assigned there.
Very good. I've added it, Doc.
Any other comments or discussion?
With me, I would suggest that we go ahead and do the first reading, but the same thing is with staff and with Superintendent Ingram, as far as review the suggestions that Mr. Barrows is stating, and then if we do come to the conclusion where we need to make those adjustments, as Mr. Barrows saying, then we could have it ready so we could implement it for the second reading.
Sure. Is that what you all, I can do that?
Yeah, I'd rather pass the first reading and let the edit happen before the second reading. So it's clear that it's not just a subset of Berkeley Alternative students. It would be all. Or any student assigned to the Berkeley Alternative School.
So we don't want an amendment to this at this time, then? That's what we're saying? It's pretty self-explanatory here.
Well, I'm not against taking a vote on an amendment. You can make the amendment, and if it seems agreeable.
I don't really care. I was just trying to bring it to light that this doesn't include everybody in the program.
Well, actually, not to cut Mr. Barrow off. That's what the first reading is for. We have in the first reading, and the question was put to the floor, and he presented the question of concern. And so, the chairperson or whomever in charge of that department, the first reader is just going to have us to read the first reading, and now they're going to go back and take a look at some of the concerns that's been mentioned by the board members. So, really, we don't have to pass an amendment for that because we're just doing the first reading. And we had some concerns. I think, Madam Chair,
I agree.
Yes.
I think it can be handled. I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think everybody intends the same thing, so it can be edited between the first and the second reading.
As a point of clarification, I was not opposing this policy revision. I was simply trying to add some clarification to it. So I want that stated.
Yes, sir.
And understood.
and I'm happy you did, Mr. Barrow, because since that you've made that some clarity, it really makes sense because, most time we have a student that may be at the alternative school, but is not a danger or, to go to an event or et cetera. So I think it really makes sense to bring that clarification there. So what you said really brought light to me because I did not see it that way until you just mentioned it, and it really makes a whole lot of sense. So your information is well taken by me.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question on the first reading. All in favor of the first reading of policy JDE, the student expulsion for revision. Motion by Barrow, second by Wright. Please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes first reading. We'll now move on to agenda item 7B.
Rule IAH-R, Grading Assessment Systems, is being brought to you through Academic Services for first reading. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of Rule IHA-R, Grading Assessment Systems, as listed under Agenda Item 7B.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve first reading of Rule IHA-R Grading Assessment Systems for revision.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Kelly, a second by Wofford. Are there any questions or discussion?
I have some serious concerns, notwithstanding the fact that this policy is being revised due to a state Board of Education change in policy. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what it is in effect doing, in my interpretation of this, and I'll read the part that troubles me. It says, as noted in Regulation 43 students with absences may make up work or demonstrate proficiency as determined by the local school district. This is the part that troubles me. The local school board shall develop policy on the body of evidence that is acceptable to demonstrate proficiency without requiring the student to make up seat time. If a grade of FA is assigned, it will carry no CP units, but will be factored into the student's GPA as a 50. Heretofore, there were two basic reasons why a student could get Carnegie unit credit in a high school course or be promoted from K-8. That was proficiency in the classroom, in other words, passing the course. And the second provision by the state, which they're now revising and deleting, is seat time. In a year course in high school and in a regular K through 8 class, there's 180 school days. The policy of the state and law required that the student be in attendance 170 of those days and could only miss 10. A credit course in a high school, a 90-day course, they could only miss 5 days. And in a semester or a quarter course, half credit course, they could miss 3. So if a student went over that, the principal had the discretion to waive some of those absences if they're in particular circumstances and situations. Medicals were exempted, suspensions were exempted, religious holidays were exempted, funerals were exempted, but nevertheless, a student had to make sure that they made up the amount of seat time in order to get that Carnegie unit credit, and also to be promoted from K-8. This effectively does away with that. And that's my interpretation of what I'm reading. On the one hand, it's saying that you can no longer have FAs, failures due to the absences. So all you have to do is the district, Dr. O'Gorman, let me know if I'm correct, also Dr. Levine, the school district, school board is required to make sure that the student only shows proficiency in the coursework. And the attendance requirement, used to be a requirement, is no longer a requirement. Is that correct?
Dr. Gorman, I'm going to defer to you on that one.
Good evening once again. Mr. Barrow, you're correct. And there are some conflicting regulations from the state. So this is the uniform grading policy that we're talking about. And there's a different regulation in terms of attendance.
Yes.
That references seat time. So the two don't match. There's one on the attendance side that says 120 hours, and then there's on the instructional side that says, yes, you can waive that seat time. So it is a conflict at best. Districts across the state are struggling and getting clarification from the State Department about this. I spoke to Dr. Sheila Quinn today, as a matter of fact, deputy at the state level, to clarify, are we interpreting this the right way? Is this state UGP saying what we think it's saying? And she did verify that. Now, I want to be clear, this is in the state regulation. Our board policy that we've brought to you doesn't mention seat time or deficiency school is a way that we address seat time now. So if a child, let's say a child finishes the coursework and they've got a B, but they've not met the state requirement of 120 hours, they go to what's called deficiency school, where they have to make up that seat time. And so that's what Mr. Barrow is talking about. What I would propose is that we have a committee of high school folks look at this and talk about a protocol to put in place to, make sure that we are defining proficiency appropriately. Because my interpretation is deficiency school will no longer cut it. So we need to step back and plan and think about how we define proficiency as a district and have a protocol in place so that it's not just willy-nilly and folks are just kind of checking boxes and saying this child's proficient, if that makes sense.
So we're under the gun here because there's a time constriction here, constraint, because we're nearing the end of the first semester. And we're also talking about students that have already been denied credit for FAs from economics, American government throughout the entire district. So it has to be retroactive. I encourage us to maybe pass this as first reading, but to really look at this, because I don't think we need to delete this language as it's written at this point in time without querying the State Department as to their intent, because this is very ambiguous. This says there's no FAs, but then the last sentence, it says if a grade of FA is assigned. Okay, you can't have it both ways. You either assign an FA or you don't. This is basically saying there's no such thing as an FA. But out of the other corner of their mouth, they're saying if an FA is assigned, it's got to be a 50. So I think you're exactly right, Dr. O'Gorman. There's some things that we can't control. We can't control this state board. I think mistake. I think it's a serious mistake, and I'll tell you why. I've spoken with several principals about this because I've looked at it. One principal gave me an example of a student at this point in time has 28 absences in a high school course, 18 of which are unexcused. Student has a 93 and an 87. How in this world can somebody with 24 absences to this date have a 90 average over the course of that? And I'll tell you how. It doesn't seem credible, does it? You're absent 24 out of what, maybe 80 days, 75 days? How can they make an 87 or a 90? It's simple, because every child that's absent, regardless of the reason, has a right to make up the work. So teachers are burdened with the responsibility of providing work for students that are absent, regardless of the reason. And they're not held accountable for it, because you give the kid the work, the kid takes it home, somebody does the work at home. I assume the kid does. There's no guarantee who does the work, but the kid gets credit for it. So the issue is, to me, troubling at best. There's another principal that told me that they had the faculty meeting and they shared that with the teachers. And the word got back to this principal. Some of the teachers are actually telling the students, you don't have to come to school. All you have to do is pass the class, whether you're here or not. If you show you're proficient by passing this class, you don't have to come. And that's the unintended, I hope unintended, consequence of this state board action. It's not the Berkeley County School Board doing this. It's the State Board of Education. But it's up to us to make sure that the proficiency standards are challenging enough to make sure that that child has learned the material. I think that sums that up pretty well. That's all I have to say.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, we'll call the question on the first reading of Rule IHAR, the Grading and Assessment System for Revision. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We'll now move on to Agenda Item 8A, the Superintendent's Report.
Chairwoman Wofford and board members, I want to first echo Chairwoman Wofford's comments about Veterans Day. It's a very important date in our country, and I think we need to remember it. As a point of personal privilege, my father was a World War II veteran. He passed away 20 years ago this past week. My first cousin, Joe Ramey, was a Vietnam vet. was wounded and came back. And a close family friend of ours paid the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. And when I think about that, being 5 to 7 years younger, they went to Vietnam, so I didn't have to. And so it's a special day for me, and I really appreciate that. So I want to echo the sentiment of thanks to all veterans. I don't post often on Facebook, but I did for this particular day. They have earned my respect. Every single veteran has. So thank you so much. Sharon, I really enjoyed our time together today at the Teacher Forum. Thank you so much for inviting me. I spoke to probably ad nauseum to that group, but it's just so fun to be with teachers. And I'd like to introduce and thank the following teachers for their service and attendance. Heather Zach at King Hoy, Shakita Spears, Cross High, Elaine Phillips, Hanahan High, Tanya Davis, St. Stephen Middle, and Meg Barano, I hope I got that right, at Timberland. Did I get that right? Cool. Okay. Thank you for what you do. You are true heroes. We had a little bit of an exchange about how to recruit and retain teachers. And I think we can start with what we control. It's like Mr. Barrow said, we don't control everything, but we can control some things. And that is treating our teachers well, treating them with dignity and respect. And it's really more of a retention issue than it is a recruiting issue. Berkeley County is a wonderful place to live, raise a family. We really shouldn't have teacher recruitment problems. And when we get great teachers, we need to work hard to keep them. So that's something grassroots that doesn't cost a dime. And that's one thing that I want to challenge all of our principals to do, is make sure that we want high standards, but we want to treat our people well. That's only fair. And treat people as you would want to be treated. It's very simple, but it's something that's worked for me in my life. So thank you and for that point of privilege. Congratulations are in order to Amy Fulmer, principal of Westview Elementary. She is a finalist for South Carolina Principal of the Year. And she has an interview in Columbia tomorrow. And while I didn't pay the officials enough at the Clemson-NC State game, maybe I can pay the officials enough Wednesday. No, Amy she'll earn it at her own right, I'm sure, but we're very proud of her and all the principals that work so very hard to ensure great educations for our kids. Congratulations to the Stratford Wind Orchestra for its selection to perform at the 2018 South Carolina Music Educators Association in-service conference in Columbia. The performance will take place 9:15 on Saturday, February 17th at the USC Alumni Center, and that's an honor. In my previous district, we tried hard to get our folks to perform at these things, but we weren't successful, but proud of the Stratford Wind Orchestra. Tomorrow morning, I'm attending a Project Lead the Way launch of Youth Apprenticeship, the engineering program at Trident Tech. I'm looking forward to that. Tomorrow evening, right here in this boardroom at 6 p.m., we have a public hearing for the Berkeley Education Center. I believe that's 6 o'clock. Is that correct, Mr. Jackson? Thank you. 9 a.m. is Brian pinch hit. Brian, thank you. You did a good job pinch hitting for Tim. We at local law enforcement, they are participating in an active shooter exercise at Cross Elementary. On Thursday at 2 p.m., we're having a press conference here to receive a Rural and Area Initiative grant of $25,000 for adult education. We're also recognizing Google for their contributions and for being the catalyst for the Berkeley Career Express. You're invited to attend if your schedule permits, board members, and anyone else who can come. Thursday evening, I'll be speaking briefly at the school planning and management team meeting at J.K. Gordon. Looking forward to that. Afterwards, I'll be attending a family and community engagement meeting at Sedgefield Intermediate, and then and meeting with a school board member as part of the entry plan. We're supposed to get together individually, and we're doing that. So Friday evening, Timberland will host Brooklyn Case, and Berkeley will host North Myrtle Beach in the third round of the South Carolina High School League playoffs. Good luck to both teams. I'll probably half up and go to one half, then go to the other half. That's kind of what I like to do. At the conclusion of day 85, this is day 85 of my tenure. That includes eclipses, hurricanes, and weekends and Labor Days. I'm glad to report that in addition to visiting 45 campuses, I've made fall evaluation visits to 20 schools. We've hired our new CFO, Ashley Smith. Thank you, Ashley, for joining us. And we have a board retreat scheduled for the cabinet and the board. Cabinet separate in the morning, the board in the evening, beginning at 5 o'clock on November 28th. And board members, in the spirit of being in school, you're being assigned homework. So the instructions, you're asked to fill out this for the facilitators. There's an agenda attached. And if you would scan and return, and I just got a text a few minutes ago, you have a deadline. A week from today, November 21st, I will not see the answers. I want you to know that. It's for the facilitators so that they can gauge the instruction, and it will be interactive. You will be working. So we look forward to that and learning together, and I think that's enough, maybe an extra. And if you don't have time to scan it, if you want to just drop it off to Penny, she'll take care of that for you. You don't have to put your name to it if you don't want to. Again, the answers, the individual answers will not be shared with me, but are for the facilitators, and then they will use that to help guide your collective work. Chairwoman Wofford, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Ingram. We'll move on to agenda item 9A, the appointment of committees. So pursuant to Board Policy BA, I appoint the following standing committee chairpersons: Academics and Innovation, Ann Condor; Finance and Human Resources, Michael Ramsey; Facilities and Capital Planning, Mac McQuillan. I further appoint the following trustees to standing committees: Dave Barrow and Shannon Lee to the Committee on Academics and Innovation, Frank Wright and Laura Kelly to Facilities and Operations, and Reverend Kelly Spann and myself to the Committee on Finance and Human Resources. There will be some time before we fully implement, so we'll have a board retreat, we'll have a regular meeting, and then the first meeting in January will be the first meeting that we actually have committee meetings. So it'll give us a little bit of time to have the board retreat, get protocols, get everything spun up. I do have a seating chart, which is in my car, but it will go by chairmanships and then seniority. So we'll get the information of what seat you would like. So I've got that for all of the moving seats. So that will be good. Upcoming dates: Tuesday, November 28th is the board workshop. We'll be starting at 5 o'clock. Please do your homework. Also, for the South Carolina School Board Association, we have received multiple dinner, lunch, other kind of invites. I am going to not be available that weekend, but if anyone would like to attend those dinners, it is in Charleston. So if you're interested, I can send you the emails if you, I don't know, different vendors who've invited us to attend their events throughout the weekend. So if anyone is interested in those invites and lining that up, let me know, and I will pass that information on to you. Next, we'll move on to the executive session. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Condor, a second by Wofford, to enter into executive session for the purpose of legal advice related to an economic development project, discussion of a contractual matter for the school efficiency consultants, discussion of a pending employment matter, to hear 2 student attendance appeals and 4 expulsion appeals. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are in executive session. Is there a motion to return to regular session?
Made the motion. Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. McQuillan to return to regular session. Is there any discussion? I'd like to note for the record that no action was taken in executive session. All in favor of returning to regular session, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are back in session. We'll now go on to agenda item 11, action required from executive session. First, we'll start with Dr. Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have some organizational appointments that I would like to announce regarding my cabinet reorganization. After visiting with principals and getting to know the district and the needs going forward, I'm recommending or appointing 2 people. First, I would like to appoint, effective immediately, Dr. Glenda Levine to be the district's newly approved Chief Diversity Officer. And secondly, I am appointing Dr. Karen Whitley, a former Associate Superintendent and Chief Officer in the Cabinet, to return to the Cabinet as Chief Human Resources Officer effective immediately and subject to her confidence in a smooth transition to leave her beloved Phillips Simmons Elementary School in capable hands. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you, Dr. Whitley and Dr. Levine, for taking on these challenging positions. We are looking forward to lots of new and different things that you'll be offering Berkeley County School District. So thank you very much.
I'd like to add, Dr. Levine, that this is going to be a really wonderful opportunity for you. And I can't think of anybody else I'd rather be at the helm of that wheel. I just am really impressed for you, and I feel like you're going to do an awesome job.
We're going to move on now to the next agenda item, additional action from executive session, a motion regarding the school efficiency consultants. Ms. Condor?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve a contract for school efficiency consultants beginning November 2017 through June 2018 for an amount not to exceed $69,500 plus reasonable travel cost to serve at the discretion of the board.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Condor, a second by Mr. Ramsey, to approve a contract for the school efficiency consultants beginning November 2017 through June 2018 for an amount not to exceed $69,500 plus reasonable travel cost to serve at the discretion of the board. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. We'll now move on to student attendance appeals. Students number 1 and 2 will be heard together. Is there a motion for students 1 and 2 attendance appeal?
Madam Chair, in the matter of students number 1 and 2, I move that we grant the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Ms. Condor to grant the appeals of students 1 and 2. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Please vote by raising your hand. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes. We'll now move on to expulsion appeals. Student number 1. Is there a motion for student number 1?
Madam Chair, in the matter of student number 1, I move that we grant the appeal and allow the student to return to their home school on strict probation.
I second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Ms. Condor, to return student number 1 to the home school on strict probation. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
The motion passes. Now for student number 2, is there a motion for the expulsion appeal of student number 2?
Madam Chair, I move that we grant the appeal and allow this child to attend the alternative school.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Ramsey, to grant the appeal and assign the student to the alternative school. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Now we'll move, motion passes. We'll move on to student number 3.
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal for student number 3.
Second.
There's a motion by Reverend Spann, a second by Mr. McQuillan, to deny the appeal of student number 3. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Student number 4. Is there
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. McQuillan, a second by Mr. Wright, to deny the appeal of student number 4. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That concludes all action as needed from executive session. We'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Condor, a second by Reverend Spann. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.